Open the public comment period.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, hold on. Motion to open the public comment period.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Would anybody in the audience like to come up and address the council at this time? Coming up, Chief?
John Calamari, Washington Township. Obviously, we're just here because my understanding is that there would be some capital discussion tonight that may pertain to the police department and/or salaries. So I just wanted to make you guys aware that we're here for, questions, discussion, or anything like that.
Okay,
So
we need you, we'll call you up.
Yep.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come up at this time? Seeing no one else, motion, you coming up?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you guys were going to go on. You want them to come up now? Mr. Mayor, or do you want them to wait?
That's more, if you want to address that part of the budget now, or?
Well, they don't need to come up in the public meeting. We're going to address them when,
Okay.
yeah, we're going to address you when we get to your part of the budget, like the chief. When we get to the police, we'll address it.
Okay.
It's okay. So motion to close the public comment period.
Recording in progress.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2024 budget.
2025.
It says, excuse me, there's a typo on the page.
Why is this
No,
really-
I know, it says 2025
It's like,
budget.
wait a minute.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we'll just start on page 1 and start with salaries, right? Mr. DeCarlo, all these salaries have a 2.5% increase?
No, 2%.
2%.
Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. The first two, there's only 3 positions that have a little greater increase requested other than the 2%. I'm sorry. There's 3 positions that have a requested amount increased from just the 2%. And I can advise you as we get there, or I can let you know what they are now.
I'm looking at the chart, I'm just seeing, because the chart shows 2% everywhere, so I don't know which ones those would be.
Yeah, so there's an asterisk in the.
Oh, okay, well, asterisk C below, but there's nothing below.
If you go down to the second page.
Okay.
It asterisks. But I'll let you know, it's going to be the third line for our purchasing and payroll. So the first 2 lines, administrator, administrative secretary, are 2%.
So, yeah, for a while, we're at 2% until we get down to tax collector. Deputy treasurer benefits coordinator, that's the one that's more.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes, ma'am.
Reach out to John?
Uh,
I know, I was bringing him in. Thank you.
Not quite. The first 2 are 2%, then purchasing and payroll is a little greater. And then the floating staff is 2%. Most of everything is 2%. It's just sporadic. So there's 1 police officer, 1 civilian police position that's greater than 2%. Our tax collector, but it's the role as the health benefits coordinator and deputy treasurer. That's greater than 2%. And then our purchasing and payroll is a little greater than 2%.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Those are the first ones that aren't 2%.
The first one that's not 2% will be the third line you discussed tonight if you start at
The
top
purchasing
page.
and payroll.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, administrator, 139,518 requested, 139,518 recommended. That's a 2% increase.
So move.
Hold on, just see it.
Only if you're going to change it.
Only if we're going to change it.
No, I'm going to just ask for going across the board, instead of a 2% increase, 1.5% for all positions.
So you want to just make all the positions 1.5%?
Correct. So that's my motion.
I'll second that.
So we're just going to take the whole table and just make it 1.5%? Except for the contractual,
Well, contractual is a contractual with the
Yeah.
police department, DPW.
But why? What, 2% is quite fair, especially in today's economy.
Mhm.
So what's the reasoning?
Because I like 1.5% better than 2%. It's a 5.5% savings. That's my reasoning.
so we have a motion for Mr. Cassio and seconded by Mr. Allman to make everybody 1.5%.
That's unethical. That's unethical to do that to our employees.
It's not unethical.
It has nothing to do with ethics.
No, these are people's salaries. These are their livelihoods.
I understand that.
That is
You can say
2%
it's
and,
wrong, you can
yes, I'd say
disagree with
it's
it,
wrong.
but to say it's unethical.
Yes, it is.
We're a complete open book here.
That is wrong.
There's been a motion, there's been a second.
That's fine,
There's
but I
no-
still
there's nothing
have an opinion.
unethical about
Absolutely.
it. So
To do that to our employees who give so much to the community, that is not right.
Roll call.
This is,
Oh, you have a comment, Mr. Seer?
no, I just find that 1.5 is nothing for what they contribute to the town. 2% is fair, really fair. And I understand there's a motion and I understand that there's gonna be a vote on it, but, you know, the cost of living alone, they need this 0.5 extra from a 1.5 to 2%.
It's insulting. It's insulting. The savings is incredibly minimal in the long run.
Any other comments? Roll call.
Councilman Casio,
Yes.
Councilman Sears,
No,
Councilman Omen,
yes,
Councilwoman Velez,
Absolutely not.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. So we'll go down and just go through them really quick. So the first line is okay with the 1.5 then. Second line with the 1.5. The third line will have to be 1.5. The fourth line, the 18,750. Mr. DeCarlo, you have a comment here for the floating staff tax office?
Yes, that salary request was based on 2%, which would increase the $21 an hour to $21.50 per hour. So that budgeted number was based on a 50-cent per hour raise.
Okay. So what does this person or people do? I guess they float?
Well, this is the assistant to the tax office, but they also fill in for my administrative assistant when she is out. So,
Okay.
I mean, since I've come here, it's always been called a floating position.
So she'll fill in for your assistant?
Yes. Yep.
So that person really just works in those two offices then?
Yes.
are they different people, line 160 and 180?
That's why I was asking.
Yes. So the person works in the tax office, and then there is a position in the purchasing that has some escrow responsibility.
This is the 180 person or the 160 person?
The 180 person. So this is, you may see what appears to be a drastic increase in the 180 position, but it's not. It's just because we didn't have to fund for a full year of a position last year. There was
Oh, because they started.
There was a vacancy for like 2 months or so, 2 or 3 months.
So that's.
So this is just to fund it for the whole year at 2%.
So this floating person's here 20 hours a week then? you're saying?
Yes, yes.
And the same for the other line? Oh, the other line, they're only here 16 hours a week.
16 hours a week, yes.
Okay.
Do they have to have any qualifications?
No,
I'm just asking from a strict,
just on the job training. There's no CEUs that they have to take or anything now.
hourly.
But they do run the department when the department heads out. But I mean, there's no formal certifications.
All right, so I show page 1 is complete.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So for 100-160, that one, when Mr. Carl, when you and I go through this, that one needs to be down to 1.5 because it's a 2% now?
Yes.
Well, all these have to be adjusted.
Right, but I'm saying the ones that I'm gonna do is, okay, all right,
All salaries have to be adjusted.
all right, I'm just going.
So I have everything on page 1 complete, everything on page 2 complete, everything on page 3 is complete.
2 is complete.
Anybody see anything there? Page 4, I have mayor salaries and wages. That's okay with the 1.5, right? Everybody okay with that?
Mike?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to feel like I have to speak up here since we're talking salaries. And these are probably rhetorical questions, no one will want to answer them. Anyone who voted no, have you added up what the town will save on this 0.5% across the entire salary base?
They get that little like their job.
I didn't want to go there, but, since Mark and I were thinking the same way, I'm going to make an assumption that everyone up here who's working probably did better than 1.5% this year in their jobs. It really shows the employees how little we think of them. Did anyone check to see what surrounding municipalities were doing as far as raises go? I wouldn't be surprised if people start to put their resumes out tomorrow. I wouldn't blame them. We have good talent here that will be scooped up. And for relatively small amount, when you're talking about this many employees, I think you're doing the town an injustice because, they'll be appreciated somewhere else. And I know certain council people up here say, well, we can get someone to replace them. We built up a lot of experience in these people, and they know their jobs very well in the town. And so, it's my job to speak up for the employees in addition to the taxpayers. But, if someone does the math, I think you'll see this 0.5% is really not saving a lot as opposed to the message that the council is sending our employees. So I would ask you to reconsider based on those reasons.
Thank you. Page 4, everybody good with everything on page 4? Page 5 is complete. Page 6 is complete. Oh, no, sorry, Township Clerk.
May I ask, this 1.5%, is that getting you your 10% fake promise?
What fake promise?
Your fake 10% municipal tax cut, this is not adding up to it. So is this 1.5, have you done the math?
Yes,
to
I
see
know,
if it
no.
equate to
No, it does not
1.5
come close to
million?
10. It does not come close
No,
to 10%.
so the 10%,
Because
so
it's
you
impossible
are-
with the spending that we do in this town to,
That we,
But the spending
I
is
said
for
we.
the town, not
Yes.
against the town.
but I did say we, so I did say we, that we do in this town.
so let me
The
throw this
spending
out
that we
here.
do in this town.
I will forego my stipend, as you call it, if we give, and you three should also do it. I won't speak for Mr. Sears, but give up the salaries and give the 0.5% back
It
to.
doesn't equate to that, it's more than that.
Exactly, so 10% doesn't equate to this savings, right?
It
This,
does
I'm sorry,
equate to
this
the savings.
0.5.
It goes, every penny of that goes toward that savings.
0.5% does not equate to your 10% savings that you're trying to achieve. And so you're trying to achieve a fake promise.
It's not a fake
taking
promise. It's a promise that we tried to achieve, and at the last
But
minute,
at the
we keep
expense
getting.
of our workers?
Nobody's saying it's at the expense of our workers.
Well,
Well, it is the
Up
expense of the
It's where
workers.
you're
Up until
taking
2
it.
years ago, that's what
It's the expense of the workers, Mike.
we
The cost
can
of
argue
living.
all we want.
Yes, and we will, because it is not right that you are taking, food out of people's mouths.
I'm not taking food out.
Yeah,
You are.
Yes, you are. Absolutely.
I
We have
don't
people
like the
in this.
theatrics.
This is wrong. Mr. Sears and I have been working with all of you on the budget, making cuts where we agree can be cut. Now you're taking it out of our employees' families, their ability to buy groceries at Fresh Grocer, to keep, making the economy move on our community. For what? To say I cut 0.5%? You're not saving that much. It's wrong.
Okay.
You gentlemen are on the wrong side of the issues.
Thank you. On page 6, we're looking at clerk, item 110. Everybody okay with that, with the reduction? Next one is okay with the reduction. On page 7, I don't have anything that needs to be filled out. Everybody okay with that on page 7? On page 8, I don't have anything on page 8 that needs to be addressed at this time. Page 9 has a bunch of stuff. Chief Financial Officer, Finance Director, Deputy Treasurer, Benefits Coordinator. Those three will go through with the 1.5%.
You're cutting finance directors or directors, even though they weren't scheduled for a raise?
No, I'm not cutting them. I said it's just good. That line has to be addressed. There was no.
Well, address means leaving that one as is then.
Yes.
Oh, when you say
I
address,
said, we said
one could
this
take
sheet.
that either way.
Oh, I'm sorry. This sheet is the only one that's being adjusted, Mr. Mayor.
I thought you said finance director.
No, I said that's okay the way it is.
Oh, I missed that part.
Those are the three items on page 9 is
Yep.
the finance officer, finance director, and deputy treasurer benefits coordinator.
Okay. So people that weren't in for a raise, you're not cutting them any further?
No.
Okay.
On page 10, I don't have any thing that needs to be addressed at this time. Page 11 just has the tax collector. And that's all on that page. Page 12 is complete. Page 13 is complete. Page 14,
No, 13, you have tax assessor,
13.
top of the page.
First line,
Oh, okay.
110.
13, everybody okay with that? That's going to get adjusted, so that was the only one on that page.
Just so you know.
Yep. Page 14, the only thing missing is Director of Law salary. Anything else on that page that you see? I don't see anything else. Page 15 is complete. Page 16, Department of Engineering, that's a stipend, Director. Everybody okay with that?
Doesn't really matter if we're okay with it or not.
Just close the book, take the whole budget for a vote. I'm voting no for the budget. And I'm sure
Page 7,
Councilwoman's voting no also.
Mr. Ullman, I have to say, I'm very disappointed in you. You constantly are in favor of providing for our employees. You constantly are protecting our employees, our DPW, the water, the safety and whatnot. I'm incredibly disappointed. I expected that from the other two, but not from you.
I support all our employees also, Ms.
No.
Moss.
No, you
No, you
don't.
don't.
If you're cutting their salaries.
No,
So.
to achieve nothing.
Page 17, Public Affairs Director, stays the same. Public Affairs, Salary and Wages Event Coordinators, 8160, 8160. That'll get reduced right to the 1.5%. That completes page 17. Page 18 is complete. Page 19, Planning Department, Secretary Salary. That's the only thing that's missing on that page. Anything else anybody sees? Page 20 is complete. Page 21, zoning officer and zoning code enforcement official. Those are the only two there.
Yeah, the zoning board
Officer.
secretary, the top one comes from page 20, carries over
It's
to
on the
21.
bottom.
very
Oh,
top.
it's on the bottom of page
Yeah,
20,
See
okay.
that one with nothing.
So zoning board clerk, yep, that's the first line. It doesn't have a heading, it's on the page before. Page 22, uniform construction code official, plumbing official, and the second TA. Those are the only things needed to complete on page 22. Page 23, we have electrical official, fire code official, and head TA on the top of the page, and that completes, and then the plumbing building inspector. And then we tabled the special projects. Can we talk about the special project, Mr. DeCarlo? We had tabled that on page 23.
Sure. As I informed council several months ago, there was numerous purchase orders that we had determined were still open going back to 1999. A total of like $276,000 that was in escrow. And it was encumbered in purchase orders before any of us current employees were being here. So we didn't know about it. Once we found out about it, we closed out the purchase orders. However, it leaves $276,000 of encumbered funds that normal working employees, we just don't have time to
So
get
this would be a one-year thing?
It would be, yes, I feel confident we could get this done in 1 year, but as you guys know, just what's involved with one refund a resolution, a purchase
Mhm.
order. So there's going to be investigative time to put into it to see what it was about, what someone is due back to them, as well as hopefully cleaning up some open permits in the building department that we can close up. So
But the
again-
main task right now is to eliminate the 276,000.
Yes, I mean, it's
And
kind
that's
of intertwined with each other, so I wouldn't say that's the one thing is the escrow. It's open permits, open invoices and everything. And, I think in the, what I advise council is we would like to put that position in at $25 an hour in the salary ordinance. And we would have vouchers completed because it's work that would be expected after the employees' full-time hours, but not to go above 40. So we wouldn't get ourselves into an overtime position.
Gotcha.
So it'll be between, 4 to 5 hours a week or when available. So we can try and get this done. And it might be one person, it might be two people.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
So this is a internal resource. You're not looking to go outside?
No, yes. The answer is yes, internal, no to going outside.
Any other discussion on this person?
So my only question would be, do we have a clear ring fence around the scope? And do we know the process to resolve? When do we know the project is done? Is the 270, there's the 276.
Well, I guess we'll start getting the resolutions, right, Mr. DeCarlo, to close it
Yeah, I
out?
mean, if that's, how we get it done, but part of it is figuring out, what we have to do. We've already brought it to the attention of our financial advisors. I've spoken to other administrators, my constituents within the county that have dealt with this similar problem. So the beginning is to actually come up with a plan. I could certainly report to the council on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis as to how we're doing. I have no problems with that.
Do we know how many accounts there are that need to be closed down, Mr. DeCarlo?
As you could tell, there's like 17 pages again going from 1999. So there was already some cross-referencing we did to make sure they weren't, there was open billing or open invoicing on them. We were able to determine there wasn't, so that's when we closed out all the POs. And again, there's a total of $276,000. I don't know off the top of my head how many different escrow accounts, but as you can imagine, there was 899 purchase orders.
Wow.
So, it's quite an undertaking that I really want to get ahead of and get done. Again, if it's acceptable to the council, I can certainly give you quarterly reports, starting off with
I'm okay with
a
that.
report as to what the extent of our, I don't want to call it a problem, but the situation is. What our
Everybody
plan
okay with
is.
that?
I just had one more.
Oh, sure, Mr.
Sorry. Prior to even your predecessor, Mr. Cavallo, brought to the attention of the council a number of, unpaid, I don't know if it's unreconciled, or unpaid POs to one of our vendors.
Invoices, I think you mean.
Invoices.
Yeah.
Could that be part of this, or is that?
So we made significant improvement on that open invoices with that engineer.
Okay.
There is still some going back, some I'm hoping to work with that engineer to, whether it's an internal mechanism with him to either forgive or, I can't think of the right words I'm looking for now, but on his.
Write it off.
Yeah, to write it off.
Wasn't
I
that
can
the
tell you-
agreement, Mr. Mayor?
Was it what?
I'm sorry?
Wasn't that the agreement when we made that lump sum payment of the 100?
That was by township expenses. There was a few township expenses since Mr. Cavallo worked on it. You guys, they were put on the bill list, and that's probably when I brought it to your attention. It wasn't very much money. I think there may have been 4 or 5 open township responsibility invoices that totaled maybe $1,700 or $1,800. I went through it.
Oh, okay.
It was definitely money that was deserving of the engineer.
Okay.
What's left, we also cleared up old invoices. The money was due the engineer from residents, from escrows. There's still a chunk, but none of those, that's what I was talking about, cross-referencing. None of the open invoices from that engineer corresponded to any of the open purchase orders. It
So
seems
no way
like
to
it was
recoup
an
that money.
accounting mechanism that was used back then. They'd get in $500 for, say, a soil moving permit, and they just open a PO for $500, whether there was going to be an invoice to it or not. And Mr. Cavallo is actually one of the people I checked with, because I learned that he was initiated dealing with this. So he cleaned up a tremendous amount. We came up and cleaned up the township responsibility, which I said was like $1,700, $1,800. Cleaned up maybe a good 15 to 20% of the open invoices, and we just need to continue with that. Again, it's working with the engineer and in some regard replenishing escrow. But like I said, some of these people may have moved out of town and don't even live in that address anymore. So that's where it kind of brings in the open permits from the building department.
Well, Mr. Corcoran, can we tell in my former life, my CFO would always remind me on December 31st that if I didn't submit any invoices before that date, that anything I submitted that was my fault and I wasn't getting paid. So if we institute some kind of mechanism in our payment procedures that tell our vendors, like, hey, if you don't get me invoices, because you're supposed to have them done every 30 days. That's the prompt, right? We're supposed to have them done every 30 days if we're using escrow accounts. So if they don't bill it.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding the question. Are you asking me if a vendor doesn't give you an invoice by the end of the year, that you wouldn't be able to pay them next year?
This is strictly for engineering and escrow accounts, not for purchases from WB Mason, because I know sometimes those bills come later on. But like when we have an engineer that's billing our residents escrow, and he or she exceeds their escrow, and then doesn't ask you for a request for more escrow, then they're SOL.
I would have to look into that, Council President. I really don't want to give a definite answer if it's not accurate. I mean, what I can say is this whole escrow issue, issue is something that we're working on to try to figure out what we can close out and mechanisms that are involved with that. So that's really all I have to say about that at this point.
Council President, I did review the matter with Ms. Bailey. And at first there was belief that there may have been 6 years. She couldn't find anything. So perhaps maybe it was a township ordinance.
Oh, it was her ordinance. It was her made up rule. Yeah, it was her,
so,
her doing. Yeah.
Let's say, if the township passes one next month, it wouldn't help us retrospectively, but we did have Ms. Bailey look into it from a legal standpoint, as if, hey, if you didn't get paid within that amount of time, is it, so we did try and hit this from all angles.
All right. Everybody okay with the 5,000 for the special projects to close out all these escrows? Yes?
Yes.
All right, that takes care of everything on page 23. Moving to 24, 24 is complete. 25 is complete. 26 is complete. 27, police admin assistant. That would have to be adjusted. And director of public safety is complete. That is all that's on page 27.
Sir, do you mind if I interrupt you with just while we're in the police section?
Sure.
Council has already approved the line for special police officers. If you remember, the chief was presenting a request for an increase of $1 per hour for the Class 2 officer, and another, I guess this would be reflected in the salary ordinance. So I'm not asking for an increase in the budget line. You've already approved that. Just while we're here on the topic, when I present the salary ordinance to council.
So it's for special officers, right?
Special officer, the salary ordinance.
193, line 193.
Yes, so the salary ordinance would reflect an increase for Class 2 officers to go from $25 to $26 an hour. And then we would create a new line in the salary ordinance identifying Class 1 officers, and we request a salary per hour of $22. So that way, there's a separation between the responsibilities and duties of the Class 1 and Class 2. It's not really anything in your budget line right now. It just would be on the salary ordinance. So I didn't want to forget that. So again, if that's acceptable to council, I'll just reflect that in the salary ordinances.
Everybody okay with that? That completes page 27. Page 28 is complete. Page 29 is complete. Page 30 is complete.
Can I just confirm, are we bringing the 90K back in or the 40,
Which item is this, Mr. Ullman?
I'm sorry, it's page 31, the vehicle acquisition?
Well, I was going to get, that was my next item. Okay, so you,
I
yeah.
saw vehicle leasing.
Yeah, so page 31, there is still one discussion to have. The vehicle acquisition was moved to capital for one police car, but we tabled it for more discussion. So that your question, Mr. Ullman?
Yes. So, based on the presentation that bond counsel and the financial advisors had presented, if we were to bond the vehicle acquisition for approximately 90K, total expense would come in at about 135K
If we put it as capital.
if we capitalized it. So, because the bond ordinance is gonna have it's a mixed use and, what do they say, 20 years or?
Well, this would only be good for 5, right, for cars,
Well, no, because this is part of,
the ban?
not the ban, it's part of the bonding ordinance. So all these ordinances that we're looking at, all the capital expenditures that we're looking at are going to be rolled into that. I think it was like 8.9 million. I don't think I have the schedule with me, but that's going to be payable over 20 years. The interest, the cost to carry that is about 50% of the principal. So
So you're saying 135?
Excuse me, Council President DeSena?
Yes, Mr.
I'm sorry, a couple of meetings ago, Councilman Castor had asked me to give him my opinion on whether we should keep it in capital. I'd like to say a few things about that if I could. Because I've been looking at this, and to me, in my opinion, it makes much more sense to have it in capital for a couple of reasons. First of all, right now, if you keep it in capital, in terms of what you have to raise to the current fund budget, it's only 5% of that 180, which is 9,000. Now, assuming the whole capital budget gets approved, capital improvement fund will be approximately 122,000, out of which 9,000 would be for the 2 police vehicles. So it makes more sense to do that, because if you keep this in the current fund line for 90,000, you're not getting basically you're saving $81,000 in terms of what you have to raise in the budget by keeping it in capital as a starting point. And there's a possibility that, I don't know what account number it is, but the budget line for police vehicle repairs is probably you're probably gonna spend a little bit less money in that line as well, because the police will be getting the 2 vehicles that it seems like they've needed for the last few years. So to me, it makes much more sense to get that through capital than current. At a minimum, you're going to be saving $81,000 in terms of what you're raising to the current fund budget, and you're probably going to save a little bit more because of that one repair line. So it's something to keep in mind as we're going through this.
So, I mean, we certainly, can do a further analysis. I don't understand. We currently raise this money today. For the past, I don't know how many years, we've raised this money through current. So we're not increasing the current expense. It's, for lack of a better term, steady state.
Well. First of all, if you keep the 90,000 in the current fund, like I said, you're not getting the savings to the current fund, but you're also only getting 1 vehicle doing it that way. If you do it through capital, you're going to be getting 2 vehicles. You're only putting down 5%, which will be part of the capital improvement fund number when the capital budget finally gets approved. So So it makes a lot more sense to do it through capital. And you're able to, because the only requirement is that it has to have a lifespan of 5 years or more, which that would fall into. Personally, I think it should have been done that way for even before now, but it doesn't mean anything now. But I'm saying in terms of what we're doing now, in my opinion, it makes more sense to do it through capital because you're only putting 5% down. And when we eventually do the ban, that's going to be that was part of that whole calculation. So.
And we're gonna pay for this vehicle for 20 years.
Right, but either way, you're going to have to go out for a ban to fund all these projects. So if you keep it in this current fund budget line, it's $90,000 and it's for one vehicle. You keep it in capital for 180, you're getting two vehicles, but you're only raising 5% of that through the capital improvement fund line. Either way, you're going to have to get the vehicles, but, and whether you get one or two, but keeping it in capital, you're getting the two vehicles. So you're also going to be lowering the amount you're going to be spending in the police vehicle repair line. So in my opinion, it makes total sense to do it through capital.
Mike, may I make a quick comment?
Sure.
I just want the numbers point out kind of, part of the reason we did it, if you see in 2023, we were able to get a vehicle for a little over 70. The price of things is going through the roof. So we're up to 90. So again, it's like, how much strain do you want to put on your operating budget, especially year to year? Some years the council decides to fund the car, some years they decide not to. That's a big thing to keep having up and down as far as an adjustable thing in your current budget. And also part of the reason was because of the availability. If the police can't find a vehicle this year, this money goes into surplus, whereas opposed to capital, they have 2 or 3 or years to actually make the purchase. So I just want to remind council of those couple of things.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this, Mr. Ullman?
No, I mean,
Is the council okay leaving it in capital?
well, my motion would be to bring 90,000
Back.
into this line. So one vehicle, 90K in current.
Anybody like to second that motion?
No, I'd like to keep it in capital at this point.
Would everybody else like to keep it in capital? Ms. Velez, Mr. Sears? Tom, Daisy?
Capital is fine.
Capital's fine.
Capital's fine.
Okay, so that completes page 31.
Are you doing one or two?
We got to look at it in capital. We're going to do capital after with the department. I believe there was a motion when we did capital for the ALPRs and one vehicles, but we brought up, we'll review it when we get there. Page 32 is complete. Page 33, first aid organization contribution was tabled. I guess that's why our Mr. Greco and Mr. Myers are here. So do you want to lead this, Mr. Mayor, or do you want them to come up and discuss it?
I have nothing to lead with, so if it pleases the council, I'll let them come up and.
Thank you.
This is about what,
The paid, do we need to have the paid service or not? I know we have the county right now is covering the day shift and you guys are covering the night shift.
well,
And there was questions whether we needed to hire the third component of this, which was brought up to us by the administration of having a paid component of it. And we really wanted to talk to you gentlemen.
yeah, I don't think we ever went to a paid decision. I thought we were gonna have the county helping us during the week, during the.
Well, that was one of the options that was brought up was,
Yeah, and that's at no cost. They'll do it.
no, that's the during the day, but there was an option brought up to cover the weekends at a paid cost. So do we need that? And that's what we wanted to
I don't
confirm.
think that we
Council
ever-
President, if you don't mind,
Go ahead, Mr.
I'm going to take this just the mayor was absent that night. I understood it as there was a question as to whether the recommendation made by administration of $40,000 was going to be decreased by council. And Mr. Ullman had questions regarding their finances, and Mr. Cassio had questions regarding their staffing, and I believe you as well, their staffing and statistics. So I had.
Well, I just wanted to make sure we were covered. That was
Yeah,
my.
so we have a shared service agreement with Bergen County.
All in the valley,
I'm sorry?
all of the Pascack Valley. It's all,
Right, but we have no-cost shared service currently
Yeah,
with
right,
Bergen
yeah.
County Ambulance. So there is no funding for shared
Right.
service for the ambulance squad. We're just talking about the contribution of amount of $40,000 proposed by administration. So that's how I understood it, gentlemen, is that council had staffing, statistical data on responses, and some financial questions for you.
Well, we put together, I went through the, I have a chart here I can give everybody.
Oh, do you have it with handout?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I went back to 2010.
Oh, wow.
So this is our
Thank you.
cost, this is what we have as income and expenses up through 2023, 2024
Thanks, Rich.
tax account. So this is right from the tax returns we do
That's fine.
every year. We don't, we're independent, I guess you all know that the ambulance corps is independent as far as money. We pay for everything, including the ambulance. We buy everything we need for the ambulance, all the repairs, all the supplies. And the ambulance we have now, the newest one you've seen is the 2018. We paid $264,000 for that. So if you see on the chart, the numbers are up on the expense line. I guess that's how the accountants do it, but they spread that 264 in those numbers. So you see.
So it's amortized through those years.
So one? I guess that's how they do it. I mean, I went into engineering, not accounting.
You and I both.
I don't know. But anyway, just, for us, the new ambulances are, our main asset is the ambulance. Without that, we're nothing. The building, nothing. So I just the other day got a copy of the Rivervale just placed an order for a new ambulance. And it's $360,000.
And what do we pay for ours in 18?
$264.
So $100,000 more.
Right.
And
So-
basically the same ambulance, just newer?
Well, the one they're ordering, I have a copy of the contract here.
No, I don't need, unless somebody else on deck wants.
Well, the one they're buying is an E-body. It's like a cab. Ours is an F-series Ford. So this is a little bit less expensive. So I reached out to the owner of BCI, who supplied our ambulance we have now. I said, if we were to buy our ambulance now, what would it cost? He says, it's a lot of numbers in there, but he says you're between $375 and $425 to buy it. So I said, well, suppose we bought a 2030, because all our ambulances were 6, 7 years, 8 years. We have a 2008 and 2018, so it's a 10-year. I said, if we went to 12 years, a 2030. He says, well, it'll take you about 3 years to get it. So he said, if you order the chassis in advance, we can cut that back a little bit. It takes 2 years to assemble it because of the assembly line and all kinds of things. So if we're probably talking close to $500,000, maybe less. It's a lot of money. We do a lot, with the money we get, and we raise money.
Absolutely.
At our fund drive every year, we send out letters.
So on the calls, this, it was up in 2022, and there was, 200, approximately 200 less in 2023. Is that the total calls went down by 200, or do we have mutual aid and other stuff involved in there?
No, there's mutual aid. That seems to be an anomaly. That number is extremely low, because usually we run around 4 to 450.
So I'm saying, like, if you look at 2022 to 493, is that a total call?
Right. That's the
That
total
includes
calls
mutual, that came to you?
That we responded to.
Gotcha.
That doesn't count if we were out of service and Westwood came in.
Oh, it doesn't account for
It
that?
does not count that. The police would know those calls. We don't keep track of that, because we don't know that the call went out if we're out of service. But these are calls that we did. It could be to another town, or it could be here. It's just total calls that we go out on.
Council President, may I ask a question?
Sure, Mr.
I just want to make sure I'm reading this correct. The income column includes the contribution from the town?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, that's total income. We give all our information to the accountant.
right.
And
mhm.
he goes through it all, and this is what, and I took these right off our tax return. We have a whole file, every tax return going back as far as we
Okay.
retrieve.
And my last question for now is, as you said, and I'm not an accountant either, but I see since 2020 and probably for years before that, the contribution has stayed steady. So it's fair to say, with the cost of living going up, you have already taken a decrease in real dollars
Well,
as far as
you know-
spending dollars.
Yes.
I was interested in the bottom line, you look at the total over how many years this was, we actually are behind by 12,000.
Right.
So, you know, we get by year to year, you know, but we buy everything we need, you know, and this stuff's expensive on the ambulance.
Yeah.
A set of tires for a car is what, 600-700? For us, it's 3,000 for a set of tires. You know, any repairs are $6,000-7,000. You know, it's like when you take your car into the dealer, they love $200-400. Ours are in the thousands. You know, I don't know where they get these numbers, but that's what it costs. You know, the fire department, I'm sure their expenses are just as high.
This is the battery for the chest compression machine, which you guys need to check. They've been,
2 batteries we needed,
it's $750.
just for 2 batteries.
Just for those 2 batteries.
Yeah. And all the pages that we have, 500. And if those get worn out, they get dropped, you know, then each time we, 5, 6 at a time, new members come in. So it's, like Rich is saying, everything that we need, we buy ourselves. And then whatever is left over for the, without that, we could not, without the 40,000,
And
we not be able
we
to
we
survive.
cover all the things that go on in town. I'll start at the top of my list. We have 2 5K runs we cover now. We cover Town Day. We do the Christmas tree lighting. We do Safety Day, Junior Police Academy, the opening day for Little League. We do the parade. Every time we take that truck out, it costs money.
Correct.
Because it sucks up diesel fuel. And that's another thing. Diesel, you'll notice somewhere right around COVID, diesel was almost $5 a gallon. So we were running hundreds to fill it. We cover all the football games. We cover the graduation ceremony. We know where that went. Basketball events. We cover the car show, and we go to the fireworks display in Emerson. So we go a lot of places, and so it all costs money. Everything we do, you know, costs us, you know. And meantime, we're trying to save up, you know, for the new ambulance. I don't know what you know, what it's going to cost us, but
Well, thank
a
you.
little bit helps.
Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? I'm okay with leaving it the way it is.
Yeah,
Everybody okay with it?
I have a question.
Sure,
So,
Mr. Norman.
you know, we were presented with an option by the administration to partner with Hillsdale, I believe,
That was an option.
which would have had a negotiated expense, and they were going to cover, if I recall, Monday to Friday,
6 to 6.
6 to 6, you know.
Right. Yeah, they have 2 paid EMTs full-time at their headquarters.
The administration did further research, looking at other paid options as well as the county. And, you know, the county is a no-cost option to us.
Right.
That, though, doesn't negate why we initially needed coverage. And the reason why we needed coverage is because of I guess, decreasing membership, as well as, you know, the amount of training that's required for your members. We found ourselves in the ability, with the inability to answer calls. It's my understanding. So I guess my question to you is, with the county there, you know, where do we stand in your ability for when you're sort of open to respond to calls? Or do we still have a coverage gap, a volunteer gap? I don't know how we would describe it.
Right now, we have crew most of the time on Wednesdays, half a day, and Friday all day during the day. The problem we have is that a lot of our new members are all in school, so we're hoping they come home now. We have a lot of people in school that are coming back. We have a lot of EMTs in school. So it's just us old guys. And I've been on this for my 31st year. And, you know, and it's really, it's a time commitment. When Bergen County came along and offered, you know, their services, they have sectors now. It all comes out of MICOM. Are you familiar with MICOM, what that MICOM is? But the police, if they can't get a volunteer rig, they'll call MICOM. And MICOM has rigs stationed in sectors. And we're one of those sectors. That's where the Bergen County rigs are now. They all get dispatched by MICOM. The hospital ambulances get dispatched by them. Their communication center is in Hackensack. They show all the ambulances on GPS. They know where they are. So the opportunity came along where they said, listen, we have some new county crews. And, you know, do you have any place we could like park? You've seen them around. I mean, they're like gypsies. They're here, they're there, they're in the parking lot, they're in Food Town, because they have no place to go. They sit in the truck with the engine running. So it's a win-win for us because we have a bay that we're not using. What better place to have them park but in our bay, in our town? So if the police get a call and we're available, they'll give it to us first. But if they get a second call, the MICOM rig is right in our building. You can't get much better service than that. So it's a win-win. There's no cost to us except, you know, they're going to be in the building, you know, when they need. And the other thing is when, you know, they sit in these trucks, they have to keep the engine running, especially in the winter. Because they carry EpiPens, they carry Narcan and other things in there that have to be kept temperature controlled. So the ambulance will freeze up. So if you get a day where it's 15 degrees for the high, to back that truck into a heated garage and shut it down.
It's good for everybody, yeah.
Right. When they get a call, they're ready to go. Well, plus the crews, you know.
Yeah, they're not freezing out. They're not sitting in the truck either all day
There's no
long.
bathroom. You know, they come in a few times. I said, you guys want to use the bathroom? They like jump at the chance. And because they don't have any place to go. They're like lost souls kind of. So that's why the county reached out. They reached out through the PPAA to ask any ambulance corps, do you have any areas where these guys could park these rigs? And
So they're in the back, they're in the side bay.
no, we're gonna take our 50th anniversary rig, the old rig, and put that in the back.
And then have them in the front?
Have them right in the front. So
Okay.
So we're working on some details now to figure out how to get them in, with maybe a keypad or something, just for security of the building. And they're gonna put up a camera inside, so there's.
When do we think that'll happen? Soon or?
Well, I don't know. I think it's ordered. I think the camera's ordered, but that'll give us a forensic record of what went on there in case something happens.
Yeah, in case something, yeah.
You can go back and look at it. So that's where we stand.
Do you anticipate your expenses to go down with, you know, this type of support?
Well, we've been in this mode all along because if another crew or if another town covers a call, it's not like a unit price, like you save money. A lot of this cost is just to exist. You know, you have to buy stuff, you have to buy supplies. You know, we pay for everything, and it's expensive. All the supplies come out of VE Ralph. You know, the bag valve masks, they're all disposable. Oxygen, tires, like I said before, tires repairs, diesel fuel is, you know. The other thing is COVID. You'll notice in somewhere around when was COVID? 2020. Our expenses went up and our income went up too because the fund drive for that year, people felt very generous that year. There weren't that many of us who stayed riding through COVID, but our fund drive was exceptionally high that year because people they wanted to do something. But we paid a fortune for gloves, for N95 masks. If you recall, you couldn't get masks.
You couldn't get all that stuff.
Yeah. So we struggled with that.
Hand sanitizer.
Sanitizer, you know, all of that stuff. And the other thing is we also, in 2019, well, we got the rig in 2018. In 2019, we decided to keep the old ambulance. We had never done that before. Why we decided that, I don't know, but I was the one who kind of pushed it. We spent, I think, like $15,000 to have it refurbished top to bottom. The engine needed work. Then COVID came along, that became our COVID truck. So it was a perfect,
It worked out.
it worked out because, we didn't know, nobody knew what COVID was doing. So we would get that rid, we'd send out the old truck for the COVID patients. And the police would dispatch it, they wouldn't say we have a COVID call because people would freak out. So they just said 4609, that was a code. When they dispatched that, we knew it was a COVID call, we'd take the old truck. When we come back, we disinfect the truck. And the new one was always ready if we had a regular call, heart attack or something. So that's all in here.
Anything else, Mr. Ullman?
You had mentioned a lot of your newer volunteers are in school, they go away for the school year. Is in the short term, that a sustainable volunteer model?
Well, right now, I'm just looking at my phone because I took a picture. On our whiteboard in the garage, I have all our students who are away at college, where they're going to college, what they're taking, just to give them a little time on the board. And we have 4 EMT, we have 4 college students, we have 2 high school students who are going to start EMT school this month, I think, or next month. It's already March, tomorrow's April 1st. And we just got applications for, I think, 3 or 4 more. They're going to go for EMR training. So we're all of a sudden,
Picking it up a little.
we're picking up. And I want to give credit, I guess, to Clayton Kenny. He handles that sign because I kept pushing it. Can you give us that sign back? And we had it out there, if you noticed, looking for. All of a sudden, we have this response coming. People are coming out of the woodwork, more or less. We just hope we can keep them. That's the problem we always have. Because the kids go to school, they become EMTs, they graduate from college, but then they can't afford to stay in town because everything's expensive. So they leave, and all us old people are still here, trying to keep us going. But, we're hopeful. Some of them are very anxious to get riding.
The 2 that are starting the EMT class, I think it's next month, they've been on, they're EMRs, and every time they're on the schedule, they've been on. No fans or buts, they've been always there. And they stay at the building so that they can get to be available right away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they're really gung-ho about it.
They're both high school juniors.
High school
And
juniors.
they're going to go for EMT school.
Yeah.
We have a lot of college students, one electrical engineer, one of them is up in New Hampshire someplace. They're all over the place, but we're hoping they come back in the next.
They'll come back to work.
Usually in the middle of May, they get out and they'll come back.
We have
They'll get on the
2
schedule.
EMTs now that started out as EMRs and became EMTs. One is right now is a nurse. So, yeah,
Nurse at Valley.
the Valley. Yeah, so it's,
Plus Larry's a nurse also at Valley.
oh, yeah.
So to answer your question, the students will come back. That should make us more available during the week, during the day, because we push them to get on the schedule. And the weekends also, weekends used to be the ones that everybody wanted, but it's tough getting them to come out of their house.
And those are covered primarily by shared service.
The nice part of it is that if you remember our old building over here, it was really deplorable condition. It was getting older and older. But with the new building, and we have new computers, and they're anxious to come there. And, they don't mind being there, and they do their homework in the back. We have nice computers to work on. So it's a nice atmosphere. I don't know if you guys have you been to the new, have you been there?
I've been there, yeah.
Been there? So we have everything in there that we need. And have you ever seen the mutual aid screen where they dispatch from? So, we have that up on the wall too. It keeps flashing our schedule and the screen, so we know who's available. And that's where the Bergen County rigs will be in there with us. So it should work out for us.
Good.
It's definitely a win. For people to come by and see the ambulances there, they know somebody's going to respond and they'll be there quickly.
Anything else, Mr. Ullman? Anybody else on the days? Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Okay.
I'm okay with leaving it the way it is. Anybody else have any comments?
No, I'm okay with the 40.
Do you need us to stay?
No, we didn't. No. I don't think we need them for anything else, right? Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thanks.
So that was on the top of page 33, fire prevention, salary and wages. While we're there, I'll make a motion to put the salaries back to 2%. If anybody will second that.
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Councilman Casio,
No.
Councilman Sears,
Yes.
Councilman Elman,
No.
Councilwoman Velez,
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. That completes everything on page 33.
Council President, I just want to confirm, first aid contribution is 40,000.
40,000. We had it tabled and it remained at 40.
Thank you.
Page 34. The first thing we have is fire department director. That stays the same. The top of the page is from the other page. I just gotta see what the heading is. What was that? Is that a control line? Total? The top of page 34, is that the control line or is that an item?
Yes.
Yeah, it's control.
It's just a control line,
on the
okay.
fire page.
Yeah. So page 34 is complete. Page 35 is complete. Page 36 is complete. Page 37 is complete. Page 38, prosecutor's office,
Nothing's needed.
nothing for there. Bottom of the page, DPW permanent employees, not superintendent. That'll get adjusted based on the collective bargaining agreement, correct?
Yeah, there's a little bit more to it, if council wanted to go through it.
Yes, please.
Okay. I provided council, I think, last meeting for DPW salaries. If you still have the salary charts I had given you. It just talked about what is needed throughout the year to comply with the CNA, the CBA, for base salary. And then there's a chart for the safety training. So together, that brought it to $712,000 for their base salary, an additional $50,000 for the safety education steps.
How did we come up with that, Mr. Carlo?
So if you go to the safety education steps Excel spreadsheet, it says safety education steps 2025.
Is that one of the tabs?
No, it was given to you, I think, Sue, in one of the packets. It should look like this.
It's in last week's package, I think.
Yeah. So we budget for, I don't want to say the worst or the best case scenario. We do it based on how quickly they can get their training done. So if you see the first individual up at the top of the salary chart, you have how many years he's completed. You have his safety education steps. There's 3 safety education steps. Education step 1, you can achieve that once you have 2 years completed. Safety step 2, once you have 4 years completed. Safety step 3, once you have 6 years completed. So you see that column, safety education steps, as 1/125. We then have the dollar per hour that's associated with that safety step. So for safety education step 1, they can complete 20 hours of training. They get additional hour per base salary pay, which also affects overtime. So we have to consider that as well. For safety education step 2, it's $2, and for safety education 3, after they complete 60 hours of training, they get 3 hours more.
Who's auditing this training? Do you have an
Myself
inter-
and my administrative assistant.
So we have an internal
Yeah.
tracking log?
We come up with a safety education plan for the DPW in conjunction with the DPW superintendent. We approve the training before the employees take it to assure that it coincides with our objectives. And once it is approved, we complete a personnel action form and they get to raise. They do it incrementally. So a lot of times they can get that first step very quickly, and then they work towards their second and third step. So those steps cost a total of $50,440 for the year. So that's how I come up with that amount.
And this is in their collective bargaining agreement?
Yes. And then if you look at their base salary chart, that's where I come up with the totals there. So the total is 712, once you take into consideration what their salary increases will be throughout the year. So at the beginning of each year, they're getting a contract step. On their anniversary date, they're getting a promotion step from G-man to H-man to, F, E, D, C, talented, see that? To B all the way up to A. So as you see, as of 1/1, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A-men. As of their anniversary dates, we'll finish the year with 6 A-men, which is top pay, 2 B-men, and an E-man.
Once you become an A, you don't get any more steps, correct?
No, you just get whatever the contractual step is. So if it's a 2.5 every year, or a 2.75, that's where the top.
That's all you would get.
That's all you get, plus the safety incentive, and then overtime, of course. But their base salary is based, once they get to A-man, only on what those salary increases would be per the contract. So the other additional information to discuss with the council is there is 2 employees that have expressed their interest in retiring this year based on their accumulated leave that would put them putting in their leave at the beginning of leaf season. So what administration is requesting of council is to approve the expense if it's needed. They may not retire. We're strongly believing that both of them will.
These are
These are both A-men, yes. Well above what is needed to retire. Say it's 25 years or well above that. What we would like to do is hire the replacement. Obviously, at the bottom, I think it's H-man is the lowest in September. So there's enough time to train them over 2 months to replace the 2 once they go on leave at the beginning of the leaf season. So we feel.
So for them to leave at that time, when would their papers have to be in for you to know whether we need to hire these in September or not?
I don't know specifically. I did talk to one of the gentlemen if there was a requirement similar to that of the police department. Again, the answer I got was I believe there is. I didn't get a definitive.
There isn't a definitive, or there is a definitive?
I believe there probably. Not to call upon. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months, and that's for police, or that's PERS, PFRS.
I think it's going to be both.
So if you want to retire, say in November, you're quote unquote pushing that button sometime 4 months earlier. So we would have to probably know if they were going to.
That's what I'm saying. So
yeah, we would probably
September
know by
date
May
would
or
work.
June. May or June.
Oh, if they're leaving September,
Right. Yeah. So obviously we wouldn't hire them, but I'm asking kindly for the council to give us that flexibility, which is only $16,000. So the most junior person brought in an H-man would be about $4,000 per month.
For the 4 months.
Yeah. No, actually, it's less than that. Let me get to the notes. What pages?
Well, that's what you got in there. You got 32 for 2 men, so.
Yes, 32 additional. So that's what, yes. So 4,000 a month for 4 months times 2.
But
So that's where the total of 794 request comes from.
any further questions, ladies and gentlemen?
So it's 712 plus
50.
50 is 762.
Plus 32.
For the 2 new people for 4 months at $4,000 a month per person.
Yes.
And
But you wouldn't use that if they don't retire.
Oh, of course not. No.
do we not save anything on the back end when the 2 most?
Well, no, because they'll have to be paid to the end of the year because they have accumulated leave. So again, I don't like to use the word worst case scenario, but they could use their time sporadically or they could save it up.
But isn't the max accumulated leave they can get is
I
15,000?
looked at their individual time accrual buckets, and that's what I planned for. So if they didn't take any time, both of them could begin taking time off, paid time off.
But for a maximum of 15K, right?
No, that's a different concept. They wouldn't get paid out for the vacation. They'd have to use it. So their vacation they'd have to use. So I'd have to account for them getting paid their full salary for the whole year. They are entitled to a sick time payout. If you remember, we did not fund the sick payout line. Since I've been here, we've always put $1,000. I looked at the other 7 members and nobody was eligible to fit the requirements to get any type of sick time
Except these
payout.
two.
You have to, except for these two. So like, you have to have a certain amount in your bucket before you can sell it back to the township. So the only 2 that fit that bill were the 2 gentlemen that are potentially going to retire. They are,
But aren't they capped at 15K?
No, it's less than that.
Oh,
It's a whole formula. It's like, once you have this amount, you can sell back this amount. The amount the money we will use to fund their payouts is in our trust fund for accumulated leave. Again, it was a couple months since I put those numbers together, but if they don't pull out sick at all this year, based on the amount they have, I think the 2 of them together was going to be less than $20,000. And we have about again, don't quote me, but I think about $75,000 in that accumulated leave. So that's where the money's coming from to pay them their sick time buyout. I don't like saying it, but that's what they're entitled to. No, they're not entitled to a vacation. They'd have to use their time. Yeah.
Any other discussion on this line item, ladies and gentlemen? Mr. Alman, you good?
Yes.
Top of page 39, we have overtime for the DPW, 45,000 requested, 45,000 recommended. Everybody okay with that? It's about 5,000 less than what they used last year in total. Everybody okay?
Mhm.
DPW superintendent,
Sir, if you don't mind, I'm just going to have the same conversation I did with regarding the police. You've already approved the seasonal workers amount for the 112,000. I just asked when I present the salary ordinance to the council. Last year, there was a range of 17 to 22. I asked that the council give us the flexibility of going from 17 to 23. So the gentlemen that have been here a couple of years, they have additional experience and expertise. We'd like the flexibility of going up to give them $23.
but we're not changing the line item.
We are not changing the line item. I don't want you to think there was any surprises on the salary order.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Mhm.
Thank you.
And then I guess the only other thing why the police were here would be the crossing guards, but that falls within the 2% too. So the crossing guards in 24 had a range of $18.71 to $20.50. We're asking that range to be $19 to $21. So on the low end, it's a increase of 29 cents.
You just want to round them to even numbers. That makes sense.
Yes. So again, you've already approved.
Yes, we're not changing the line, we're just changing the.
Yes.
Yes.
So again, when you guys see it, you guys and girls see it, it's not a surprise. So if that's acceptable, you'll see the 19 to 21.
So page 39 is complete. Everybody okay with that? Page 40, director is okay at 1,800. That's the only thing that was missing from that. Page 41 is complete. Page 42 is complete. Page 43 is complete. Page 44, we have DPW equipment storage rental was tabled because you wanted to add stuff.
Yep,
That
it
was
can
our
remain the same.
What's that?
It can remain the same.
So we're leaving it at 32,464.
Yes.
So the recommended and the is going to remain as presented. Everybody okay with that? We're leaving it at 32,464, Mr. McCall.
Yes.
Right? Page 45 is complete. Page 46, health registrar. Everybody okay with that? Director is a stipend. Part-time secretary is a 2%. That completes page 46. Page 47 is complete. Page 48, recreation superintendent. We only have that line remaining, which will be 2%, right?
Yep.
Page 49, recreation team program. Is this for the reimbursement for team night?
Yeah, we have the I don't know if you want to call it.
The shared service agreement, yeah.
With Westwood, where we pay 40% of the program, they pay 60%.
Okay. Recreation director is a stipend. We have recreation copier expense, 3,000 requested, 3,000 recommended. We okay with that?
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Everybody okay with that? That completes 49. Page 50, recreation lacrosse venue and lights there's no line there, I'm sorry. Recreation miscellaneous, 2,000 requested, 2,000 recommended. SNAP at 575 unanticipated expense. What is that, Mr. Carlo?
Any type of training that might come for our superintendent in there.
I'm sorry, could you speak up? I couldn't hear you.
That might be required for that, for our superintendent of recreation, the attendance at the league. It also gives me a buffer if the teen program goes over. It's very difficult to get, again, there are partners in Westwood, but trying to get an anticipated salary from them as what they're going to pay their teen counselors is very difficult. So I'm hoping the 3,500, so that will help us have a buffer if that goes over, and if there's any overage in the copier expense, plus any anticipated expenses. So I know you see 605 used. I would kindly request if we could please keep it at 2,000 to give me a buffer for any recreational needs. As you can tell, there's no lines there, very minimal amount of lines.
No, we eliminated them all, yeah.
Yeah,
Anybody okay with that?
thank you.
Bottom page 51, recreation online registration site. Is this for community pass, Mr.?
Yes, and that's a quote that went up $200.
That completes page 51. Page 52, we have Golden Seniors, 22,500 requested, 22,500 recommended. Any discussion? Are we okay with that? Recreation Senior Exercise Program, 3,200 requested, 3,200 recommended. Is everybody okay with that? Yes?
So, I'm sorry, Michael, can we just back up to, I'm sorry.
Golden Seniors?
Yes, 371,000, the
Yep.
activities, 22,500. So I guess my question is, we cut a check to fund them, or do we pay direct expense? Because it looks like we've just made two large contributions to them, so.
Yes, we do it very similar to the ambulance squad, organizationally and fiscally and purchase-wise. It was a lot more organized for us to do it as a contribution rather than us managing the expenses.
Are they a legal entity?
Yes, we looked into all this, before we started doing it last year. Or did we start in 23 or? I forget if it was.
I think last year might have been the first year, but not 100%.
That way, if they overexpend, it's on them.
Right.
We were, again, as you can imagine, it's one side wasn't telling the other we were missing out on expenses and encumbering money, which is, is the law. We have to have an encumbrance system. So, it was extremely well managed.
It was also putting a lot on our seniors. I think the one person who used to do the POs left the organization because they left the area, I believe. And as any one of us knows in municipal government, POs can be time consuming and like that. And it was just to take the burden off of them also.
Anything else, Mr. Allman, on that?
No.
Senior exercise program, everybody's good with that. That completes page 52, page 53. Parks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's
Yeah.
two lines. I'm sorry. 2 lines at the bottom. Parks, building maintenance, 10,000 requested, 10,000 recommended. Is there any way we can cut that a little bit, Mr. DeCarlo? Seems to be running at like $5,000.
I really respectfully say, please
No?
don't, especially the park field and maintenance expenses. Mr. Lawler and I today, as we did our tour around town, had a discussion that we're anticipating spending almost $10,000 just to replenish what's required for mulch refreshment at the 3 out of the 4 parks, in addition to,
Wow.
as you know, we, the one company that was cleaning our bathrooms in 23 went out of business, and the expense increased in 24. And, I don't want to say the word deterioration of our fields because they're very good, but, last year, towards the end of the year, I allowed the over encumbrance of Parks Field maintenance because we had a light year on the building maintenance. So we didn't over encumber the control, but we did some nice work to the fields. I think it had to do with maybe the dugouts and the benches and things like that. So there's no telling what could happen to the buildings at those locations. You
Yeah, just like the bathroom situation Saturday morning, stuff like that happens that we don't know about, right? So
And, plumbers are expensive and things like that. So,
it's coming down now.
I do kindly request you to keep it.
Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Parks, field maintenance expenses, 60,000 requested, 60,000 recommended. Everybody good with that?
Didn't we just invest like a ton of money in the parks, in the fields?
Yes.
That's not going to, I understand we have to keep it up because then the expenditure is wasted, but
If anything, I would want to spend more on the maintenance to guarantee that those improvements stay as long as possible.
Those were, you probably know, but they were capital expenses for the infield rehab and then the bringing in of new, what's it called, clay.
yes.
The sprinklers, we had the installed sprinkler system on one field in Memorial, and it helped us re-level some of the areas that were unsafe. But those, there's still the upkeep maintenance. So the 60,000 wasn't to achieve those improvements. Capital was. This is to maintain everything.
That completes page 52. Page 53, portable bathrooms, 5,000 requested, 5,000 recommended. We okay with that? Field striping, 6,200 requested, 6,200 recommended. Library contribution due, 807,373, 807,373. This is state provided amount. Mr. Corcoran, this meets our state mandatory payment we owe them
Yes.
based on our budget?
Yes, this is statutory.
Because it's a big jump. It's a big jump. Yeah.
It is, no, it definitely is.
Okay. That completes page 53. Page 54, holiday celebration and remembrances, 9,000 requested, 9,000 recommended. Everybody okay with that? Town Day, 10,000 requested, 10,000 recommended.
Yeah, can we just go back real quick? So that 9,000 from last year, are we going to have a repeat on the 4,000 of the installation of the bracket, the installation of the brackets and I guess at least the initial hanging of the banners?
I would say I hope not. I'm hoping they will last longer than that. Can you tell me what page you're on the audit?
209?
I mean, I know what you're talking about anyway, but I just want to look at it. I mean, the direct answer is no, but having that money in the line gives us flexibility towards the purchase of other materials that would be, or other merchandise or equipment to support holiday celebrations and remembrances.
So
Do we anticipate buying anything?
I would propose cutting that by, I make a motion to bring the 9,000 down to 7,500, a reduction of 1,500.
So you want to see it lowered to 7,500?
That's the motion.
Anybody second that? I guess we'll leave it the way it is. Nobody seconded it, Mr. Olman.
All right.
Moving down to Town Day, 10,000 requested, 10,000 recommended. Everybody have any comments or?
Just, based on the balance in the trust, can we look on the revenue side, if we could fund that through depletion of the trust as opposed to,
You on page 210?
no, it doesn't, I mean, it really doesn't matter which page.
How much is in the trust? That's why I can't find.
Uh,
I don't know what page you're on.
The celebration, as of 1/8, it was 41K. Page 4 of the
Trust.
Audit Trail Trust. I don't know,
Audit Trail Trust. Okay.
I mean, if 10K is the expense, it's the expense, but, can we bring money out of the trust for that? Or reduce,
$40,901, yeah.
or reduce that and push it against the trust. So how would that work, Mr. DiCarlo?
Well, you would just, whatever you would want us to use. So say you didn't fund that line at all. We just have to use the trust fund for the money we would need towards Town Day. So it would not need to be on the revenue side. The trust has a dedication, a rider, so we can utilize funds directly from it.
Do we know what legacy books are?
Yeah, that's
The recycling of books, the green bin outside.
It's income.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just didn't know what it came
It's a
from.
donation bin, I think.
Yeah, it's the green one outside right here, the
Yeah.
book. Okay. Any changes on Town Day? Do we want to use the trust up a little bit?
I think I would be okay with that.
Can we use half? Can we make a 5,000 deduction? We use 5,000 out of the trust. This way we're not totally depleting it. Mr. Almond, would you be okay with that?
I'm good with that,
We'll take 5K out and put 5K out of the trust. Everybody okay with that?
yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
So you can have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to reduce it by 5K, use the trust for the other 5K.
Who's second?
Dr. Cash.
Choose.
Mr. Sears, that doesn't matter.
Not that.
Roll call.
Councilman Cassio,
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Oman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez,
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. ESD electricity, 22,000 requested, 22,000 recommended. Is that still correct, Mr. DeCarlo?
Yeah, if everybody got my email memo. If you leave, we should be good because
Okay.
anticipated increase shouldn't come till June.
Okay.
Obviously I can't promise, but I'm hoping that the 22 will be fine.
Electricity, streetlights, traffic control, rename line to combine electricity and streetlights and traffic controls, no increase requested.
So then in my memo, I'm asking for that to go 112 to 117. So if you give me a $5,000 increase, we should be good. PSE&G, again, I couldn't get a promise from them, but they believe the streetlights and traffic controls, there's not going to be an increase, which does make sense because they're unmetered charges. It's like we get charged per device. So it does make sense with being told that, but it's like the building electricity that's expected to go up to 20%. So again, if I took the whole year, added 20%, then cut it in half, if you give us 5,000, I'm hoping that 117 should be sufficient.
Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Mr. Ullman, you had a question?
Yeah, my apologies, Mr. DiCarlo, but I didn't follow that fast enough.
So are you
20
good with do you see where we're combining? So it's, we're not, it looks like it went from 44,000 to 112, but we zeroed out the request of 68,000 in streetlights and traffic controls. So after I gave you the budget, PSE&G came out, well, I think with all the electric companies came out with an anticipated 20% increase in energy costs. Not for natural gas, just for electricity, because they told me natural gas is not supposed to go up.
That is correct.
So we discussed building energy and then energy for streetlights and traffic controls. Our representative told me that she does not believe there's going to be an increase in the cost to provide energy to streetlights and traffic controls, which makes sense with what I know from reviewing the bills. We get charged like per device, not necessarily for the energy use. So like say a streetlight is $15, right? It's never going to be like 13 because the lights were on less, or 18. Seems like so it made sense. So then we're just going back up to the energy, the building energy. So I based that increase only off the 68,000.
So your new request is for 117, correct?
For my new request is for 117.
So we have a new request for 117 requested by admin.
And just, I'm sorry, there's a little note to it, just so again, everything makes sense. When I gave you this report on February 11th, the actual was $44,080. Bills came in for 24 after that. We actually used $46,274. So when I did my 20%, I did it based on the $46,274, which came to about 10 grand. But again, it's only about half the year. So
Okay.
I just did simple math and cut it in half. So that's why I'm asking for an increase in 5,000 to cover the anticipated. And because it's just simple math. Because as you know, they're raising the price when the air conditioners are going to be full blast in July and August. So, again, it's kind of guesswork, but the 5,000 will be enough.
Everybody okay with the 117 for 003?
Yep.
Moving on down the page.
Can I do a roll call?
It's a new request and a new recommend from the administrative office's telephone, 43 requested, 43 recommended.
Okay, and we can reduce that, sir.
Oh, this is the new agreement you got with the new company?
Yes. So again, there's companies, so we're trying to get the existing one to do everything they have to do so our new one can onboard. So we're doing it a little bit at a time. So by the time this goes into effect, we feel that we'll be able to satisfy our needs with a reduction of 7,000. Overall, next year, we're hoping for a reduction of about 1,000 a month.
So 36,000 is the new request.
That's what we need for this year, because we'll still need a few months, say 4 or 5 months, for the full price of what we were paying the previous / current company.
So minus 9K to 36. Excuse me,
Is it?
7K.
Yeah, 7K
7K.
down to 36,000.
36,000. Okay, everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Water, 18,000 requested, 18,000 recommended. Is that okay, everybody? Are we expecting an increase for water also, Mr. Carl?
Let me just look at my notes, because we did a transfer, and again, I don't know why it's not reflecting on the report, but we actually used, in '24, we did a transfer of $3,600, so we actually used $18,929.
Also, this is not a true audit right there.
Yeah, it's not true expense amount. That's why I had a note. You guys know we did a transfer, but you probably forgot that sometime in December we did the transfer for $3,600. So we actually used a total of $18,929. Again, I think a lot of it was a drought. Hopefully there's not a drought, so gambling that 18,000. But again, if we need some, we'll figure
The
it out.
control line will help.
And plus the well was busted at Memorial.
Memorial, now it's working.
Right, so 18,000 should be good.
So, page 56, emergency services building gas, 8,000 requested, 8,000 recommended. Everybody good with that? Town hall gas, natural, 10,000 requested, 10,000 recommended.
May I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Mr. DiCarlo, will this cover us for the supposed 20% increase that's coming in
So
June?
from what I understand, it was just on electricity.
Correct,
It
it's
wasn't
not on gas.
natural gas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, your home, there's two crazy phenomena going on. At the highest build month, you're gonna get hit with a 20% increase, but they're also going to go to an income-based
That's,
scale of what you pay for electricity based on your state income tax return.
welcome to New Jersey.
Only in
Make
New
it
Jersey. You can't make it up. Is everybody okay with the 8 and 10 for the two buildings?
Yep.
Sanitary sewer fees, BCUA.
Exact bill.
That's the exact bill. Everybody okay with that? Page 57 is complete.
That's
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Sanitary sewers other than BCUA, 65,000 requested, 65,000 recommended. Is this because we're missing the Hillsdale bill?
No, we're missing the Paramus bill, and that's expected to be 26,000. At least that's what it was in '24. So we paid, Ridgewood is 35,600, Hillsdale's 2,100, and then Paramus is 26,000.
And that's what's missing in the 2024
That's what's
totals?
missing, yeah. So I want to make sure you knew that, so you didn't think,
No, it's fine. Appreciate that.
Is, none of the Vivianos not coming online, obviously, this year?
I think that's the holdup, is in there, like storm water.
Storm.
No, storm, not sanitary
Not
sewer,
sanitary.
storm, yeah.
And what about the one around on, the other one on Van Emberg, that's gonna go
Franklin
freaking to?
Court.
Is that
Oh, I
hooking
don't
into-
know that. I don't know that plan.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think it's gonna come online this year. If it does, it might be 1 month, so
But
pretty
it's
sure
going to
we
be
can
us.
absorb it.
Be.
I don't know if it's going to BCUA or one of the other towns. I
Yeah.
don't recall offhand.
Page 57 is
So
complete.
you're okay with 65?
Yes. That completes page 57. Page 58, statutory expense PERS. Hold on, is that the top line, a control line?
Yes.
Yep. So we have PERS 249,475. That's the bill, right, Mr. DeCarlo?
It's the anticipated based on what everybody's increase is this year,
Okay.
right? So their salaries. But that's civilians.
DCRP pension 13,500 requested, 13,500 recommended. Is that just, again, just what you think it's? gonna
Yeah,
estimate?
that's our part-time. I think it's the deferred comp retirement plan. And again, that's based on the employees. And there's one, so I don't want to highlight that person, but the person they replaced was not eligible for DCRP. And the person we replaced with is, so that's what's accounting for that increase. And normally, the last couple of years I've been here, we've had to do transfers, and we didn't last year, so we were pretty good.
Okay.
So the 13.5, seems like it'll be appropriate.
FICA, Social Security, and Medicare, 290,000 requested, 290 recommended. Are we expecting it to go way higher?
Yes,
than
so
what-
again, that's Medicare and
Yep.
Social Security. So again, it was a projection based on what the contractual employees are and what was anticipated at the 2% increase. So the 290
Okay.
is appropriate.
State expenditures, PFRS, 1,084,143 requested, the same recommended. That's again, just a calculation.
Yeah, I don't like telling you it's a bill, but that's,
What's
pretty,
going to cost.
yeah, pretty accurate, yeah.
It's statutory.
Page 59, municipal alliance match, non-share is $11,000. Requested increase due to reduction in municipal alliance coordinator salary line. What is that, Mr. DeCarlo?
Yeah, if you remember, that was a net number between the salary line and this line. I think we did save a few bucks between the two, but the State Municipal Alliance Program, the paperwork has gotten out of control on it. And so what the coordinator asked is she would take a lower salary if we would make up what we were getting from the State Municipal Alliance. So the two numbers netted out to less, I think, Mark, a
Yes.
little less, but it saves a whole lot of paperwork, which is why she was willing to take less of a salary to make it up.
So there's so much paperwork that the individual would rather take a reduction in salary than complete the paperwork.
It's gotten that bad. And
It's so bad.
that's not just her,
That's
we've
crazy.
checked with others also.
It's not just her saying that.
No,
No.
a lot of people, because we checked with other coordinators and they said the same thing.
Wow. Everybody okay with that? Page 60, Bergen County open space park improvements. This is a new line, right, Mr. DeCarlo?
Yeah, it's accounted for on the revenue side. So it's, essentially a wash.
Okay. Recycling tonnage grant is
On the
another
revenue.
wash, right?
Yep, it's on the revenue side.
That takes care of page 60. Page 61, clean communities cap. Is
Another
that-
wash.
That's another one, right?
Yes, sir.
Bergen County JIF,
That's another wash.
okay. That takes care of
Just gonna keep
61.
going there.
62, municipal court shared services, 117,500, shared service agreement with Saddle River.
Yes.
Everybody okay with this?
Gotta be.
Yeah, it's contractual.
Page 63 is completely empty. Page 64, municipal court Nope, there's nothing there.
You're gonna skip the
yeah.
capital improvement fund for now.
We're gonna skip capital improvement fund?
Yeah, because you have to, you
Yeah.
gotta talk about your,
The reserve for ambulance, 10,000 requested, 10,000 recommended. Everybody okay with that? Principal CapEx.
that's an exact number.
That's an exact payment,
Yes, sir.
1,145,000.
Same thing.
Same CapEx at 551,700. That completes page 65. Page 66 has reserve for uncollected taxes. 635,000 requested, 635,000 recommended. Mr. Corcoran, what was our actual, do you by any chance know what, did we use any of this last year?
Well, basically, this is a reserve that you set up.
Yep.
Just in the event that the tax rate does go down. Remember, 2 years ago, we lowered it 80,000. And based on the information, based on our tax rates and everything like that, in my opinion, we should not lower it anymore, because if you run into something unexpected, you're gonna have to get that from another account. So, in my opinion, we should keep it at 635.
Yeah, sir, we also got an opinion from our financial advisor of not to take it down any further.
That came from Lurch?
Yes, sir.
Okay, everybody okay with that? Page 67, there's nothing there.
You're done.
And we are complete, ladies and gentlemen. We got to go to capital improvement fund for the police. So we'll go to capital budget. 2025. Gentlemen, would you like to come up at the table? I only have one question. I have one question, so. I'll wait till you get here. We received a email of the council on the dais about the ALPR being installed in town, and it's an invasion of privacy. And the reason we want the ALPR is for not for invading anybody's privacy. It's to protect the township residents from vehicles that we can track them that are either involved in criminal activity or activity that they committed somewhere else where we can catch them here, because that ALPR camera will say, hey, this car isn't involved in Paramus and now it's in township, and you guys will be able to tell Paramus, hey, you just hit our ALPR. There is no reason that we would be tracking township residents. We would be tracking them if they did something criminal, that we should tell them. But otherwise, this is not, Big Brother is not watching us, because they were very upset that we were installing the ALPR in town. And I just wanted to get, I know you presented it already, Chief, but just if you could just coattail on my stuff and just add exactly what's going on.
Sure, I can confirm. The system operates 24/7 and it does log all the plates that it is able to read. However, it doesn't run those plates without cause. We have to go back and manually put a plate in and would have to ask for the registration, and we would need cause for that. So we cannot.
But if Paramus said, hey, we're chasing NJX 61T, I think that might be my new license.
It acts very consistent with what you just described, yes. That is correct.
May I ask the chief a question?
Yeah, I'm just following. So you would then say, hey, Mr. Cameras, did NJX 61T go through any of our intersections?
Correct.
And that would be the only time you used it. Or if we had a burglary in town and somebody says, hey, there was a suspicious car parked with this license plate. So you would run it through the ALPR, but you would have to have a reason.
Exactly.
You can't just arbitrarily say, you know what, I want to know where the chief is today and run his plate. Like, there's no reason for that. It's only.
That's correct. There are extreme parameters with regard to this use set up by the state and monitored by the county for exactly that.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. I mean, I've just said, one of your questions is based also on time frame. Like if there was something, now you have a coordinated time frame between this and that one. Now you narrow your search down within that area, correct?
That is correct.
It's not to look at Mr. Jones to come home and open up his trunk and take out a bunch of bag of garbage. It's
That-
not used for that.
That is correct. Additionally, just to add, 2 officers will be trained and certified and are responsible for compliance with exactly what you're asking about.
And this is like a attorney general violation if we
That-
abuse the system.
That is
I
correct.
just want to put everything on the record.
Agreed.
The resident was very, upset about us violating, people's rights in town by putting these up, and I'm all for it if it's going to stop crime. And, we all know, I remember when I moved here in 97, they used to always tell us, hey, if you see a parked car along the parkway, when you're going through the toll plaza, call the town police department, because they're probably robbing somebody up on the hill and running back down to their parked car on the shoulder. So those are a long time ago, but.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah.
No, we're here to uphold people's rights, not to violate them. And the parameters that are in place are extremely stringent with regard to
The
that.
only time now.
It is audited also on a regular
It would
basis.
be audited. Okay, so it's
Correct,
audited.
for access.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Do you know how long they retain the information?
The county is responsible for the retention. We're piggybacking off the county system. I don't, but I can find out.
So do we have, aside from the cameras, do we have any hardware here at Town Hall?
No.
We will not. It's web-based. Our access would be to the county through a web-based application.
So we'd have, okay, so the only thing we're installing is the physical camera, and then that's being shot right to the county.
And only the
county-
coordinators can access that.
The two
Correct.
coordinators, the two.
I'm one of them, so.
Okay. Any other questions on the ALPRs? I just wanted to get that one out there because I know we all received that email. Now I can respond accordingly. Now that it's on record, what the chief and the rest of the gang has said. So we have that. We have the 35,000 for 25 new BWCs. Those are the body worn cameras, right?
Mike, did you implicitly take a vote on that and you're good with it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is everybody okay with
Yes.
ALPR? I guess.
just want to know to check it off or not.
Yeah,
That's what I was just gonna ask.
Well, I'm sorry. Mr. Sears and I have a motion and a second for one new car and the ALPR is what we agreed to the last meeting.
Yes,
That's what you got, right?
that was the agreement.
So the agreement we had at the last meeting, Mr. Mayor, was
Yeah.
90,000 for one new Tahoe
Mhm.
and the ALPRs at this time.
Okay, thank you.
So again, if everybody, that's what I have in my book. I just want to make sure
Yep.
everybody's okay with that. So we have the 35,000 for the 25 new body worn cameras, plus one new car camera. Is everybody okay with that?
Mhm.
All right?
That being, the
That'll bring us
5,000
with-
is one,
No, that's for 25 new cameras
where, above it, okay,
and one new car camera.
understood.
And then we won't have problems with the batteries like we're having right now. We'll hopefully solve it.
I lost one last week.
Okay.
Another one.
75,000 for the update of the men's locker rooms and bathrooms. That will be done with will our town architect do that, Mr. DeCarlo?
No, it's just,
Is that necessary for an
No.
architect?
No, I don't believe
Oh,
so.
it's just, you're gonna have it renovated by a client. Okay,
renovated.
Correct.
okay, I didn't know if we had to go, okay.
Will we see the renovation plans?
Sure.
We could?
Yeah.
Mhm, thank you.
The last thing I have on this page is in-car laptops at $40,000. So what is this, how many are we getting for
Those
40,000?
are our laptops. That is 8 laptops.
So they're 5,000 apiece?
Yes, and they're from 2020, so 5 years old.
Okay, so they've,
Reach the end of their service life.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're losing air cards. That's how they function. And we have 2 right now that are on the way out, and you're talking about over $700 in air cards. So
everybody okay with that?
I'm sorry, how many laptops?
8 new laptops, 8,
yeah.
and
And they're
5,000 each.
and the mounts too, because they're different.
Of course they're different, of course. And they got a new plug.
Yeah.
It's like the iPhones.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. New mounts, new plugs.
Are they sourced from a state contract?
Yes.
Are there any grants available for something like that?
Not that we've been
We-
able to find, that's for sure.
We'll always check.
Yeah, not for computers. Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. That's all I have on your list. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you waiting. Sorry you had to wait so long, but I thought I had to get an answer on the ALPRs before I responded. So I knew the answers, but I wanted to put them in the public so everybody could be.
Thank you very much. Those, on a professional standpoint, I would really, really like to underscore my gratitude for that. I think it's a force multiplier. I think it goes a long way. It puts us back to what I consider industry standard for our industry. So thank you very much.
And again, there's one going out of Van Emberg.
Van Emberg,
Parkway.
and Washington Avenue, and Pascack Road, and Ridgewood Road and Pascack Road.
The three of them. Okay.
Correct.
We don't need one at the Parkway?
There is one there.
Oh, is that the one that's on like facing Jackson?
Yes.
Oh, that's an ALPR, right?
The county put that in. We do not have access to it though because we're not a buy-in on the system. This
So
will get
once
us
we buy
buy-in to
in, will we
the
have, well, technically you'll have access to four of them then?
Yes.
One
Locations, yeah.
5.
Five.
There's one on the entrance and the exit.
Oh, I didn't realize there was two there.
Yeah.
Which one, where's that one?
At the 168 exit, there's two there already.
Oh, okay.
But we don't have access to it because we're not part of the program.
Is there going to be an operating expense for that at all? I know it's $1 late and a day short now, but.
No, because they piggyback off the traffic lights.
Okay.
That's the only ongoing
Just
expense that there would be.
electricity, nothing-
Correct.
Not a program.
And it's a minimal.
Yeah.
What-
Washington.
That is a quid pro quo for buying into the system. For us purchasing the hardware, all of those expenses are taken care of by the county.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. On capital, the only thing I have we didn't vote on is the new chief command vehicle, fully equipped Tahoe.
It's the fire chief?
Yes. That is the only thing I show that we didn't vote on. Is that what you have, Mrs. Wachowski?
Yep, that was the only thing I have here too.
Yeah, the only thing I have is that. Do we know how old the old vehicle is, Mr. DeCarlo?
Yeah, so the plan would be to hand me down the chief's current vehicle to the deputy chief. So he has a 2018. He would hand me that down to the deputy chief, and the deputy chief, I think, currently has it, is it a
2014.
2014. And then that would, I don't remember if the plan would be to auction it or to try and trade it in. I don't remember, but either way, it's going to have a value.
We push this off to next year. Is it required this year?
I mean, again, in discussing it with the chief and the director, they were hoping for this vehicle last year, and they had pushed it off to try and minimize the requests of capital for the fire department. I think it's also anticipated that there's going to be some time frame, nothing like the garbage truck of 3 years, but it might not be till, the end of this year, 2026, before they actually receive the vehicle. That's my belief. That's my understanding.
And also, I think it was to defer some of the cost next year. If you see they're looking for a replacement of engine 43. So it was just to spread the expense out over 2 different years as opposed to going for $1,090,000 next year.
What say you, ladies and gentlemen? You okay with it?
I can tell you that the assistant chief's car is rattling. The doors aren't closing right. It gets beat, It really does get beat.
Everybody okay
And
with leaving it?
it's not on purpose, it's just use.
Everybody okay with leaving it this year?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Velez, okay?
Yes.
Mr. Casio?
Council President, do you mind if I just do a rundown with you?
Sure.
All right, so I have 2025 road program at Fern, Carriage, Bergen, and Salem approved for $887,000.
Yep,
The new chief's vehicle approved for $90,000.
yep,
2 garbage trucks approved for $600,000.
yep,
Front loader for $250,000.
yep,
An F-350 crew cab for $100,000.
yep,
1 police vehicle at $90,000.
yep,
Stationary Yelp per yard $100,000. The BWC is at $35,000. The renovation at $75,000.
yep,
In-car laptops at $40,000.
yep.
And the fencing at $85,000. So I think the only thing that was reduced was
the
the
one police car.
$90,000. So, John, this is your time to shine with the math. And we'll have
I already
to.
have it, Mark. I already have it.
Okay, so we need to know the 5%.
Well, it's reducing it by 90 brings $2,352,000. So
Okay.
the capital improvement fund, 5%, it'd be $117,600.
Okay.
So what page does that go on, Mr. DeFalco?
It was close to the end.
Yeah, it was like 59 or 60. So page, capital improvement fund.
Page 64, Mike, halfway down the page.
Yep, capital improvement fund. So we had 122,100. What is it, Mr. Corcoran?
It's $117,600.
117,600, ladies and gentlemen. This is for
What page? I'm sorry.
page 54,
64.
64.
117,600. Capital improvement fund 50144 902 200.
117,600.
600.
Council President, Senate, like, just as a backtrack way of getting back to that number,
Yeah.
if you 5% of 90,000 is 4,500, which and that's a reduction of 4,500. So
Yeah, thank you, yeah,
Sir, just a couple of housekeeping, if okay.
sure.
Mr. Kowski, I think we can do the introduction on April 7th.
As long as Lurch can get it, absolutely. You and I will go over the numbers tomorrow and yeah.
And Council President, is the council good with getting the first reading of the salary ordinance on the 7th as well?
Can we have it like not on?
Yeah, I'll give it to you beforehand.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, so you can see it.
yeah, as long as we don't get it that night, I just,
Yeah.
You never get it that night. You always get on that Friday before.
yeah, but even if we can get it sooner than that, is what I'm saying.
Now you really ask.
Well, if we can get it sooner than the Friday, before, you know,
Yes.
No.
anything else, ladies and gentlemen?
Council President,
Yes,
I just want to thank you for reconsidering the employee salaries. I
thank you,
think that was a good move. Thank you very much on behalf of them.
thank you, Ms. Bliss.
If I may speak,
No, go ahead, Mr.
no, I think we thank all the council for
I was,
putting an effort into plus and minuses and what we need to do to keep this town going. So I want to thank everybody here, you know, and I think we've all focused it on the needs of the town and that's well appreciated. So thank you.
Agreed.
Do we want to look at the revenue, the trust, capital?
sure, Mr. Alderman, what page you on? Are you on the other, or the tabs?
Where is he here?
Revenue and trust.
Revenue and trust. You want Audit Trail 2024 Trust? You want to do that one first, Mr. Holman?
Well, I was just going to look at the revenue side.
Sure. Where are you on?
It's the second tab, I think.
In the front.
It's the white one, the grant one?
Mine's right and it says revenue. Right up-
Oh, it's
that's
right.
the pass-
Okay, hold on. Oh, it's in the beginning.
Correct? Is that where you're at? Mr.
Yes.
Oh, revenues, yep, I see it. Okay. So we're starting at the top, alcoholic beverages, right?
We could use one.
Is that what you're talking about, Mr. Holman?
Yes.
All right.
So the 24 realized is revenue that has been truly realized by the.
Yes, those are actual income numbers.
So these are actuals. And the proposed budget is what we're anticipating.
Yes, and as you may or may not know, we cannot anticipate more than we realized the previous year. If anything, we took into account conditions of 2025 that we expect to be a decrease, such as interest, police side job, et cetera.
So municipal relief fund aid,
The state omitted that this year.
so we're not receiving this?
No, and that was a hit for 74 grand.
And
that was
that's,
only for 2 years we received that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Corcoran?
We don't, that's finished now. We don't, that's why we're not anticipating it for this year.
So the 74, so the 74, 424 is not being, that's why we're not having it. Okay.
Yes, we received those monies for 2 years. So it's finished as of the end of 24.
And there's no more fund, are there any remaining funds in the ARP?
No. That program was completed and concluded. We have to use the remaining funds that we had available by the end of December 31st, 2024. Actually, the reporting period starts tomorrow, John. I remember
Yes,
reminding you like every
not
week.
lying. I knew you were going to find out.
So yes, now there's no more ARPA
So
money.
there's no more Fed money for that. And then the 343,
Yes. So that came from all our closures and cancellations of funded ordinances, capital ordinances.
so is that cash, for lack of a better term?
Yes. But there's a downside to that, which I'm sure you could imagine. That won't be there next year.
Understood. Can we, is this all fungible? Can it be earmarked for the repayment of debt? Is that what it has to be earmarked for? Or does it go into general fund?
Oh, basically, you're allowed to anticipate it as a revenue, which is what we're doing to try to offset some of the costs that you're raising through this budget.
But
Because there were, certain revenues that we can't anticipate this year that we received in '24.
But by resolution, Don, we canceled those balances to the general ledger for reserve, what's it called?
Reserve for payment of debt.
Right, correct? I think that's what you're asking.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's lowering the amount that you have to borrow, basically. And yes.
Okay.
And the other item was that the one state aid that we get usually goes up every year. In '25, it's remained the same. The energy receipts did not increase for '25. It's the same amount.
And the 84
That's a grant.
for the grants,
Mhm.
do we know if we have that
So,
in hand?
well, it's a reimbursement grant. So if we don't spend it this year, which there's a most likely that we won't, it'll just, John Trent does an accounting, I think some accounting at the end of the year, you turn it into a grant line.
Yes.
It goes on the grants receivable reports.
How come the Bergen County GIF grant went down so much?
Well, we only get that, it's about $1,750 a year. So the reason why, the better question is, the reason why it was so high is because it wasn't being used. It was just accumulating.
Oh, that's one. Okay,
And then we
that's one
discovered
emptied.
it.
Those are ones we emptied out of.
Yeah, while doing the annual financial
Okay.
statement last year.
What's the local recreation improvement grant?
That is, they're, so one's usually the DCA, the local recreation improvement grants is from Bergen County. So, that was the previous years. So we haven't yet received it. So the only time I'm going to be able to get it in the budget and on the revenue side is if I know about it prior to the budgeting, period, time frame. So we've made a couple of grant applications. So if one comes in June, that's when we'll do the Chapter 159. We'll introduce it into the budget after the budget process is complete.
And the receipts from delinquent taxes?
Do you want to try and explain that, John? That's one of the four major components to the revenue side. I couldn't regurgitate it well enough to have someone explain it. But John, do you want to take a stab at it?
I mean, I know in general, to be honest, I really don't know in terms of what the amount itself. I can see, from last year, it was also used. It was just a different amount.
Well, there's always a revenue from receipts. So the way I understand it is it's
Isn't that the
money
interest
that
rate?
was owed that came in.
Wasn't that
That
the
was
interest
past due.
rate that's owed on?
I don't think it's the interest rate. I think that's what was owed to us that was delinquent, right? So
Right.
Relation.
Yeah, it's late taxes plus the interest payments,
Exactly.
right?
Well, yeah, like,
Which is why
I'm
you
saying
can't
it's late
anticipate as a
taxes, but-
revenue.
right.
Yeah.
And it's typically that constant?
That I couldn't tell you. It does look that way, but I don't. I mean, our
Yes, it is. It is.
Rate's
And
very high.
if you look at that amount, it's a very small percentage. If you were to compare it to our tax base, $200,000 is very small amount percentage wise.
Agreed, which I think is why someone raised the question of why we are reserving, how much, 680?
Yeah, that's why I was wondering why we're reserving 635.
635. And again, I don't say this as a blame, but the council in 23 reduced it against recommendation from 715. So in anticipation of council having those questions, I spoke with our financial advisor, who provided bullet points of why we shouldn't do it. And it would just be financially irresponsible for us to do that.
But why would it be financial? Why is he saying it would be financial?
Do you want me? I can certainly send it to.
Yeah, if you don't mind sending it
That
to
can
him.
depend on, yeah, absolutely.
Because, I
He
mean,
has a kind of an explanation of,
well, we're at 200, we're putting 635 in there, and I understand.
Right. Well, again, I know whether council likes to hear this argument or supporting facts or not. If you see our first revenue is surplus, it's down $150,000 because our overall surplus has been declining over the last couple of years. And if council elects to reduce our RUT, it's going to be even less going into our surplus, and we're not going to be able to sustain this budget. So our goal is to get back up to the common 1.8 that we normally introduce, at least since I've been here and looking at, the history of how we've been putting into surplus. So if you reduce RUT, it will have impacts in several manners, but significantly with decreasing our surplus.
And then, so if we turn to the grants,
The audit trail
well, I guess it's the
in
audit
the back.
trail.
In the
Yes.
back, right?
I mean, this is, that ending balance is basically the balance in the grant account.
Let me just get there. Got the little grant. Yeah, so as of the time I printed it, January 22nd.
So Clean Communities, we basically use it to pay for the disposal of the.
Yeah, so Clean Communities, we traditionally do we pay for environmental renewal. So that would be our leaf, brush, yard waste, our vegetative waste. Clean Communities or the recycling tonnage grant is how we usually offset our recycling pickup and drop off. We didn't have any grant money left for recycling, but we did have money to offset the need in the budget for our vegetative disposal. If you remember, I think the numbers where I told you we needed 100,000 and we only funded it with 30 because we have grant money in the current budget, right? That was at like 25,000 or 31,000. And then the remainder of the 70 is within the grant lines here.
So if things worked to plan, would this be zero at the end of the year or something close to it?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So again, in addition to the reserve for payment of debt, income, we won't revenue, we won't have that, and we won't have any grant money left to supplement what's needed for vegetative disposal.
You're fading, Mr. DeCarlo.
Yeah, I know. That's legitimate.
That's just not microphone, it's body. Also.
Yeah.
So so there's a Clean Communities grant.
We'll still have the current budget grants that come in every year for the recycling tonnage grant and the Clean Communities. It's just these grant lines have accumulated over the years. Again, I wish I could tell you, why it wasn't benefited from, but the last couple of years, that's been our strategy is to use the grant lines, and that's money in hand because it went through the appropriation cycle of the budget.
So if we were to look on page 3 at the middle, Department 705, the 54,000, is that the aggregation of the 23, 22, 20?
Yes.
Okay. So the same question, would this be essentially zero at the end of the year? Or?
Yes, if everything works out according to what we're anticipated to spend based on last year's expenditures, yes.
Okay. And then I guess when we look at page 4,
some of those have been zeroed out, if you remember from the last council meeting.
Yeah.
So where you see a balance in CDBG 2019.
Mm-hmm.
That's no longer there. We canceled that out. The 11,892 we canceled out. I believe, John, the 28,000 as well. Right?
Yeah, yes, yeah, well,
The
as you're.
30,000 is still,
Yeah. There-
the 30,000 is still there
Yes.
along with the match.
Yeah,
We keep in touch with them to let them know that's still a project that we want to do.
right,
And then
yeah.
DMHAS, did we cancel that out to 2,800?
No, but we will be.
Okay. Oh, that's a resolution you're going to do.
Or
Yes,
just,
okay.
yeah, that's something I'm working on. Yeah.
Right.
That's going to be going on for our next meeting, actually. But as you're looking through this report, you'll see a vast majority of these have been zeroed out. And you can tell because when you look all the way to the right on the page where it says transaction balance, for the most part, there's nothing in there. And even ones that have numbers there at the end, you'll see they're all zeroed out. Basically, these accounts are set up in the event you have to pay something past 2 years, because when it's in a current fund, you only have 2 years to pay it. So you set up a grant line in case 5 years down the road you have to pay something, the money's there. Then at some point, you probably will reach a point where you decide you won't have to pay anything out of that line, and at that point, then you can cancel them, which we've done with some of these also. But that's the intent of it.
If you go down to page 15, you'll see some local recreation improvement grants, 159 local roof reimbursement grant. Those are on the grants receivable, so we don't actually have that money in hand. That will be reimbursement once we have appropriate funds to spend utilizing those grants. So the 60, if I remember correctly, the 60 is associated with the swim club, and the 66 is associated with 450, but obviously 450 isn't technically ours yet, but it is still a grant we received.
And that will be used to offset expenses with the acquisition?
Yeah, Mr. Bruno will be here on the 7th to do a presentation for the council, so I want him to answer these questions. But I had started with, we're going to need money to demo or clean up that property, so to speak, and he believes that we can use some of that 60 towards that. So that would be great. But again, I want that to come from him as a definite, and really good news, just because we're experienced now. We've started the process with Mr. Buno and Miss Bailey, that once that acquisition is put into place, that we're moving to get that grant reimbursement for the land acquisition. Like we have the ball rolling. Hopefully speed up that reimbursement.
Good. Anything else, Mr. Allen?
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's an appetite to understand what's in the trusts, and are there opportunities there?
In the trusts?
I think the best utilization of it is what council did tonight with the reserve for public events and offsetting for town day. That we use the snow trust to offset a lot of things, but that's kind of getting reduced by the amount of funds that's in there. That's reducing, but it's still, I think it's holding fast at about 18,000. Another one we talked about was accumulated leave in the trusts.
How about the trust reserve for escrow fees? I mean, we're holding almost $1 million of escrow fees.
Well, we talked about 276 of it,
What about the reserve for performance bonds, Mr. Corcoran? Is there anywhere we could move that out of there?
I'm gonna have to look into that. Because I've noticed that for a while too.
It's a big number, 131,000.
I know in discussions with.
Because can we use that to pave the roads that those performance bonds have, done damage to?
If you don't mind, let us get some good answers on that, because I'll always try to dip my hand in the cookie jar and I'll get smacked by the appropriate person, whether it's, or Miss Aper or, Miss Taraboki or whatever. So I know we've talked about the reserve for backfill bonds, or reserve for escrow fees and performance bonds.
I'm saying typically those performance bonds are for road opening permits. So if we can move that 131 out and put it into paving for this year, bring you close to $1 million of paving in this.
Yeah, but if it's truly a performance bond, John, wouldn't this potentially be money due back to the escrow?
If they paved it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that it's just for roads paving.
Oh.
We'll do some research. We dip into this a little bit each time, and in public events we talk about, POA, we can't trust outside billing. We can't for police.
That's a pass through between the vendor and the payment made.
Yes, except for the 35% administrative fee. So that's an income revenue building.
Okay.
And you'll see the reduction, I don't remember, it's a debit or credit, whatever it is. And then police outside billing's got a lot. And we talked about reserve, there's trust in there that Ms. Wachowski uses, for the animals or for the marriages or, reserve for tax title lien premiums we can't touch. Reserve for snow plowing we talked about, reserve for accumulated leave we talked about, and then
What about the donations to police? Can we buy the ALPRs with that? Can we reduce that and buy the ALPRs and get rid of that line, Mr. Parford?
I'm sorry. What page is that on? I'm sorry.
On page 37.
17.
I'm sorry, 17.
You're getting tired too.
Donations, to police, there's $33,000 in there. Can we, actually, right, is it 33 or 43?
Yeah, it's 30. Yeah, there's 33,000.
Can we use that to offset the ALPR costs?
I would want to look into that a little further. I'm not saying you can't.
Can we use that to renovate their locker rooms or whatever the renovation?
would you mind if administration had a discussion with the police and just see what they may have, a plan for? I think most of that donation came in from
the former mayor.
Yeah, the former mayor that left it as a, I just, if you, wouldn't mind. I think we can do that before it comes to, bonding or borrowing money to see what their plans may have been for that money. They use some of it.
The reserve for accumulated leave, is that just for police or police and?
Again, I only know what it's entitled, and there's nothing that suggested to me that was only for. Since I've been here, it has been used on 2 occasions, and they happen to be police officers. But I had every intention of utilizing it for the 2 DPW sick time payout, for lack of better terms.
Hey, Mark, if I could, I think you should be able to do that. I would think.
Say that again?
I would think you could. I don't think it should be just for, I think you could use it for DPW.
No, I know we can.
Yeah.
It accurately. That's, that's all I've done is that, since I've been here.
Right.
So do we know what our maximum exposure is? Are we
Right
over?
now?
Yes.
Based on the calculations I did on the 2 DPW employees, at the time I did the calculation, what their sick time would be. Again, I think it was somewhere around the $15,000 mark. It was definitely below 20. So our max exposure based on the contract, what they had accumulated for sick time, was under 20,000.
And on the police side or whoever else is eligible for?
Nobody's eligible for anything unless the council, takes advantage of one of those, what we call them a buyout too. Remember the police chief explained it to you.
Yeah, I don't like that term, but yes.
Yeah. Employment agreement, we should say.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, we have exposure for the 2 DPW of maybe a max of, let's say, 20.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not that.
It might be less. There's no exposure contractually?
No.
To the police?
No, police do not have, again, for lack of a better term, sick time buyout. They do have personal time buyback and vacation time buyback that's funded through the current budget.
So I guess my question is, if we have 55
It's
in
about
there,
75.
there's 75 in there now?
Yeah.
And we have a potential 20.
Mhm.
You know, can we work on reducing that? How, can we take any of that?
We still have 5 more employees, right? That could qualify for it, right?
Well, again, yeah,
You
just
said there's 7, right? There's 7A employees right now, right?
there's what?
7A
I think the
employees.
police.
No, I'm talking
A
about
for
DPW.
DPW.
Oh, yeah, no, this would only, again,
20 would take care of
I'd
2.
have to see why it was set up, but my interpretation of this was, again, exactly that reserve to pay out for accumulated leave. So the police are not entitled to anything contractually when they retire. The DPW does. The DPW, and it's just for sick time. However, you can utilize that reserve for accumulated leave. For an example, if there was another employment agreement with a police officer like there was last year, that's where we took it from. The way we would keep funding it is when I explained it to the council last meeting, when the reserve year is over, and rather than going into surplus, we can do an accounting entry to put it in the accumulated leave, just like we do for the snow trust.
Okay, so again, I don't know if you guys have a,
Well, I'm just worried about the remaining 4A employees that could retire and have sick leave to them.
Not DPW.
no, that,
Only 2 are entitled. Only 2. The 2 that can retire are the only 2 that actually can retire. No one can else.
No, I'm saying, what about the other 4? When can they retire?
Oh, they still have years to go.
Oh,
It
okay.
only takes 6 or 7 years to get the top A man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're in the beginning of their careers. You know, I think the next
okay.
one that would be
So
eligible.
what do you want to move money out of there and put it into the line item, Mr. Edelman?
I mean, I think it's best if it stays there because it's kind of your little nest egg if an employment agreement does come along.
So you pulled the 40K last year out of that line.
The 39, yeah.
Council President of the Senate, if I could.
Yes, go ahead. Mr.
I understand we have a little bit of buffer in that account, but keep in mind too, we have another trust account that I'm a little worried about that is going to get into a negative at some point. That's a snowplow. I mean, based on the balance at the beginning of last year and what it is now. And I know we have that current fund account that, well, I think it got cut to 17.5. I'm just saying I would leave this in this particular trust account because at some point we might have to reimburse that snowplow account. I'm pretty confident about that. Maybe not tomorrow, but maybe by the end of this year, it's going to be interesting. So it might be a situation where you might want to move some of that money from this into snowplow, depending on how things go.
can we move money between the trusts like that? I mean, aren't the trusts established for a particular purpose?
They are, but you also don't want to get in a situation where a trust account gets to a negative balance. That defeats the purpose of setting up a trust account to begin with, really.
John, not that I disagree with you, but if you remember, taking into account the decreased amounts that's continuously getting into the snowplow, we beefed up the current budget lines, like for winter watch, the vehicle repair, overtime and things like that.
Okay.
Not that you're wrong, but we did make some adjustments.
I was going to say, we did beef up
the budget. Yeah.
No, that's fine. Like I said,
I don't know if we can I don't know. I can find that out to go from trust fund to trust fund because there's a dedication by riders, which allows you to, DLGS is allowing you to spend that money for the purpose that we did the dedication by rider for.
Yeah.
So I'm sure.
I mean, if we have other current fund
money, but we can certainly find out an answer, but
anything else, Mr. Holmes?
What about the summer camp?
So the balance that's commonly left in summer camp, we use that to would you say we use the income line on the budget?
Yes, correct.
So what do we do with that, Mr. Supran?
We use it as part of our income base for the summer camp. So when we account for our income and expenses, a portion of that balance from the trust fund is utilized. I just don't have a budget.
Yeah, I don't remember how much we were taking out of here, but we try to leave a decent amount, but I think we took some out this year. I'm sorry, I just don't remember the amount offhand.
Yeah, and we definitely have to leave a decent amount because sometimes,
Based on damages.
damages and stuff like that. Like one year we had $10,000 worth of damages. And I think, Mayor, you proposed a budget that would reduce the amount that we had in summer camp.
Correct.
I think you were using more of the balance.
Correct.
The developers plan, the trees. We're getting a settlement.
No, you mean from the court case for
Yes.
1 Madeline Court? Or the property on the corner east? Madeline.
Bless you.
Yes.
The court worked out an agreement for them to plant 15 trees, which I believe Mr. Sears is happening tomorrow.
That's tomorrow, yes.
Yeah,
On the property?
township.
No,
property.
it'd be on township property, the parks and Memorial Field.
So,
So it's not monetary, it's just actual
Martinis.
trees that they are.
so I understand, and this is way outside the budget, but what's being done at that property? I mean, there
So,
were trees and now there's nothing.
right, so we're directing the property owner back to the planning board. So there was communication between myself, Mr. Lamatina, the property owner, and Ms. Kalish. And we're trying to get her back on the agenda for the planning board. I don't know if it'll be the next meeting.
To do what?
To go back before the planning board to discuss the landscape plan, I imagine.
I mean,
She
They have to
got
put a landscaping plan in place. They
Oh, they-
didn't, when they did.
they do, so they have
So
to,
these trees that are being planted on municipal property are above and beyond
Above and
the
beyond,
landscape.
Again, I don't want to say that like it's definite.
right.
This
So
is
that's what I'm
just-
concerned with, is like, we're putting these trees everywhere else, and then she's gonna say, well, I'm putting no trees on the property, and it lays desolate. I mean, that was a fully wooded lot.
Yeah, again,
My
this is a decision the
understanding that
judge
was-
made outside of our,
All of
I don't want to use the
agreement.
word influence, but again, it's in the
Yeah.
court's hand. That's where the adjudication started. So I understand that as the penalty for what they did.
Right,
I don't understand that as to meaning they don't have to put any trees back. I can't tell you that.
They're not off the hook.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's why I want to
That's
make
my-
sure.
that's
I don't
what I
want to
understand.
plant these trees on town property and then say, well, we're not planting any trees
no, this is above
above
what
and
they
beyond
have to
what they have
do.
to do on
Yeah.
their lot. Okay. All right.
I don't.
so basketball,
Mhm.
that's a lot of money in there.
Well, again,
You're seeing a lot of the income right now
Yes.
without a lot of the expenses having been paid for the season yet.
because
Because we get all the
basketball,
registration fees up front, but then the expenses come out throughout the season.
I think it doesn't, but like later part of the fall.
It just ended, basketball just
Yeah.
ended 2
Oh,
weeks.
just then. Oh, yeah, this report's dated January 21st.
So it just ended
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so probably a lot of expenses came out between then and now as the season went on.
Okay, I mean, we started at 59 and I appreciate that we're at 63 and there's some additional expenses, but it seems like a
Well, I'm
rather
sure it's
large
nowhere
amount.
near, I'm sure it's nowhere near that. I can let everybody know that, but again, if we weren't paying now, as you can tell, there was a reimbursement on January 13 of $21,000. You see all the money coming in, but you see the money going out as well, so it won't remain that high. I don't believe.
No, I don't think so either. Because again, I figure when a registration opens, so it could be that 59. If the registration opened in November, let's say, it just carried over.
Running a negative in our on page 29. Reserve for COA.
No, I don't know how to really explain it to you, but there's, John, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain why it's not a negative. That fund has about, probably $276,000 in it. Actually, I printed it out today.
Yeah, that was a new account
As of
that I set
February
up.
3rd, it had $287,000 in it. It was an accounting thing of what we had to do so we could spend some money. So I think it's in a general ledger, John. That,
For that, okay.
right, and we had to create it this way, so we can actually incur an expense, because I guess some general ledgers, we can't incur an expense against.
That's what it was, yeah.
We can't encumber a PO against a general ledger account.
No, it can only be a budget or a revenue line when you do a purchase order, which is why we set up this account, I believe, Mark.
So where's the $200,000?
In a general ledger, 287,000 as of February 3rd. It's in a general ledger account.
So it's an asset account?
Give that, you can have it. I can figure everyone out up here. I just can't figure out the lottery numbers. I know everything you're gonna have.
All right.
We good, Mr. Feldman?
I'm hoping to go through capital, but since it's a 10:15, I can call it a day.
Motion to adjourn?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night,
Bye,
John.
John.